art students! You caught me reading one of my favorite children's books, Harold and the Purple Crayon by Crockett Johnson. Crockett Johnson wrote and illustrated this awesome story. It's about a little boy who has just a purple crayon, and he manages to go on this whole adventure with just drawing simple lines. You want to check out some of the illustrations? Yeah, check it out. So, he was walking into a place that looked like it needed a forest, so he drew a tree. And then he drew apples on the tree. But he thought that the apples needed to be protected because somebody might come and pick them. So guess what? He drew a dragon under the tree to protect the apples. But then the dragon scared Harold. What a silly story and what cool illustrations. So, welcome to week 7 art lesson, Become an Illustrator. I got my kazoo. Did you know that if you want to grow up to be an artist, there are so many jobs that an artist can do? I've told you this before. Last week, you became a cartoonist and you created your very own cartoon character. This week, you are going to become an illustrator. That's right. You are going to be creating your very own illustrations that you could put in a book, or you could create a whole book full of illustrations. The job of an illustrator is to create the pictures in a book. Some people are the author and the illustrator. That means some people write the stories and they also draw the illustrations. They also create the illustrations. Let me show you some examples of some books which have some of my favorite illustrators. Everybody knows about Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss was an author and an illustrator. That means he wrote the words to his books and he also made the pictures. Really cool pictures. You guys know The Cat in the Hat, Green Eggs and Ham, Horton Hears a Who. So much fun. Another one of my favorite illustrators is named Quinton Blake. Quinton Blake did most of the illustrations for the books written by Roald Dahl. And if you don't know who Roald Dahl is, I encourage you to find books written by Roald Dahl. This one is called Fantastic Mr. Fox. And I just love his illustrations. In most of his books, they're simply just black and white illustrations. But honestly, sometimes they're a little bit creepy and cool. But they always help to tell the story in a better way. My last example I'm going to show you is actually my all-time favorite author and illustrator, Mercer Mayor. So at the bottom of the book, you can see it says written and illustrated by Mercer Mayor. Mercer Mayor also has written a number of children's books, and I encourage you to check out Mercer Mayor. Google Mercer Mayor and go ahead and check out all the cool books that he has written and illustrated. Illustrations basically help us understand a story better, and they help us understand the characters better. So, I'm wondering if you have ever heard of the book Where the Wild Things Are. Where the Wild Things Are is a children's book written and illustrated by Maurice Sendak. It tells of a little boy named Max who gets a little too wild and gets sent to his room. And in his room, the jungle starts growing and it gets bigger and bigger, and soon he finds himself in a different land. And when he looks around, he sees some water and a boat, so he hops onto the boat to take him to the land of the wild things. He traveled across the oceans and meets all kinds of wild things, some monsters from the island, and he becomes king and tries to tame them. But of course, he eventually gets a little bit tired and wants to come home. What a fun book. That book and those illustrations are actually our inspiration for this week's art project. You are going to be creating an illustration based off of Max's adventures in the wild. So I showed you some images of all the monsters, and you noticed the jungle that Max had traveled to, and he became the king, and all the beautiful illustrations that helped to tell that story better. So today I'm going to teach you how to draw some simple objects that you could add to an inspired drawing, an inspired illustration based on the book Where the Wild Things Are. All right, let's go.
So let's go ahead and get started on our drawing. Once again, Max from Where the Wild Things Are has inspired me to create an illustration based off of the book. Now, there wasn't a castle in the story Where the Wild Things Are, but I can use my own imagination and add a castle in the background. And on Seesaw, I have some materials for you to look at when you create your illustration also. So I will have something that looks like how to draw a castle step by step, how to draw a palm tree, because I am going to be adding a palm tree in my illustration today. And then once again, here is Max. And I just went ahead and printed out this picture so I could look at it and get some ideas when I create my illustration. Remember, the job of an illustrator is to just help tell a story better and to help create a better understanding of the characters in the story. So, oh yes, and how to draw a sailboat, because I think today I am motivated to draw a sailboat on some water with some palm trees. So I have my pencil, I have a black marker I will be using to outline my illustration, and I have some of my fancy markers today. All right, I'm gonna stick this little drawing of Max right next to my paper here when I draw, so I can kind of get some ideas on how to draw Max and possibly a monster lurking in the jungle as well. So first of all, I'm going to start with a pencil, and I am going to create a wavy line like this across my paper. I'm going to be adding some water. Max was a kind of a wild kid, and he in his imagination, right, he saw a sailboat and it sailed him away to the land of the wild things. I'm going to add a sailboat here in this water. Now I can kind of look at this, but it's pretty easy to draw a sailboat with just a few simple lines. So, and the fun part is that you can decorate the sail. All right, so a sailboat is kind of like a shape like a long stretched out U on the bottom, and my sailboat is in the water, so I'm going to just kind of not draw the whole bottom of the sailboat because it's going to be resting in the water. But you can see I kind of have a nice U shape like this, and then I am going to connect the top together like this. And I am going to create the mast. The mast is what holds the sail. And I think my mast is going to be right about here. And it's just going to be a simple line up. I can always make it longer if I need to later. A simple line up and down like this. And then the shape of a sail is really just a big triangle on its side, isn't it? So, except for mine is going to kind of slope downwards a little bit. It's going to have kind of a round top to it. So just go ahead and watch me do this now. Take that line all the way back down to the hull of the boat. And then I'm going to connect this part here back to the mast. And if you like your sailboat as it is, just like this, that is great. I'm going to add one last line around like this because there's some space here so that the wind can get through that sail a little bit better. And of course, don't forget your flag on top, and you can decorate that however you want also. So there's a flag on top, and I think my sailboat is going to have some stripes. like this, because I'm imagining it'll be fun to color with some stripes. Okay, now I'm not going to draw Max yet. You'll see what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw Max later on another piece of paper and kind of have a fun interactive illustration here. So over here, there's going to be some palm trees. I think I'm going to do some palm trees kind of coming out into, like maybe the sailboat is kind of coming up on land over here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some palm trees. And I think I'm actually going to draw a little island. You gotta have some kind of land to pull your sailboat up on. So maybe the sailboat's gonna land up here, and now I think it'll be easier to draw some palm trees. The way I like to do palm trees is just kind of keep it really easy peasy. Palm trees have 2 lines up, like this. See how it kind of got a little bit wider at the bottom and skinnier on top? I'm going to add some coconuts. This is a cocoa palm. And palm trees also have a nice texture to them. If you ever look at a palm tree close, it has some nice texture. So I'm just going to draw some texture here. And then 1, 2, 3 lines on the top. And you can make your palm leaves however you want, but I like to just draw the lines first. And then I draw some zigzag lines on each side of that center line, kind of like this, to create the palm leaves. You can kind of imagine it's a nice, maybe it's the middle of the night or it's a nice beautiful day, whatever your illustration wants to tell about your story. Let's see, maybe we'll do a couple bushes so the monsters can kind of be hiding in there. Just really easy, just rounded lines like this all the way down. So my illustration is really just made up of a lot of simple lines. Maybe some clouds. Clouds are kind of like the bushes, right? Just little loop-de-loop-de lines around like this. Maybe this one is behind the other one, so they're overlapping. Maybe one more here. And now I think I am ready to color. So let's go ahead and draw Max. And I'm gonna draw Max, and I'm also gonna draw one of the wild things to go along with Max. You can create whatever kind of characters you want for your illustration, but I am going to make my illustration, I'm gonna make my characters based on the characters in the book. So I'm going to start, and I'm using a Sharpie so that you can see my lines better. Sometimes drawing with a pencil doesn't come out so well on the camera. So I'm gonna start with Max's. The shape of his face is going to be like an oval. And we had some time to develop characters last week. So many of you already have your own characters, and you can be drawing those characters again and place them in your illustration if you want. But I'm gonna just draw Max. And he's got a little triangle nose, kind of like a little side, an L-shaped nose, not a triangle. And he is going to be smiling. And he's going to have a little bit of eyebrows like this because he's feeling kind of wild. And he's wearing a wolf pajama suit is what it looks like to me. So I'm going to draw a line around his head. I'm going to add those wolf ears at the top of his wolf cap like this. And I'm going to draw his arms out like this. And he's got little claws in his suit. His little suit has like little sharp claws on the end of it. So I'm gonna draw those, just some easy zigzag lines. And then kind of come down for his body. And then some lines for his legs. And also his suit has zigzag claws on his feet also, which I thought was kind of funny. And he's got some little buttons that go down his tummy, and he's got this really crazy tail, like a wolf tail, kind of like a bot. And you can add other things if you want. I believe he even has whiskers in the illustrations in the story. So there's Max in his wolf suit. Now let's draw the monster. I'm going to draw a monster that has sort of like a large oval shaped head. So you can start with just simple shapes and create your own monster. This monster has two huge eyes, and remember the pupils. The pupils are the black part of the eye. And my monster has a nose shaped like this and a very big mouth with some teeth, triangle zigzag teeth like this. And my monster has a large oval body like this. And my monster has horns. You can of course add horns or a hat or whatever kind of crazy hair you want for your monster. And my monster has arms that go down like this, and two legs just like Max, and pointy toes just like Max. And you can give your monster a tail. I'm going to give him some claws here. Maybe this monster has a tail that's kind of like this. And spiky tail, we'll give him a spiky tail. Let's give him a spiky tail. And now you can have fun coloring. Now, I created my characters. Now I'm going to cut them out. When I cut them out, I'm going to be making sure I leave some space around my drawing. So you see how my scissors are not actually touching my character. They're just kind of going around the shape of my drawing. You don't always have to cut right on the lines. It's easier to just kind of go around, especially when you have like a tail or something skinny. It's difficult to cut, so I like to leave space around it like this. Okay, So I created a couple different characters and I created a background for my illustration. And now my characters can go anywhere they want on my illustration. Max could ride in his boat. He could go on shore. The monster could be standing on shore. Max is in his boat. There's all kinds of cool stories you could tell with your illustrations. You don't even have to glue them. You can just keep them loose, or even if you have a popsicle stick, you could tape a popsicle stick on the back and use them to create a story in your illustration. Yay!
And remember, after you are done creating your illustration, and every time you're done creating your art lessons, your art project, remember to go to Art Time with Miss Friel's website. This is where you go to turn in your homework and to find all of our lessons. You just click right in the middle of this blackboard and it will take you to Seesaw where you can turn in your homework. Okay, friends, we'll see you next time.